Unit 9. Regular hours? There are two kinds of jobs. Some people work regular hours. In the United States, the typical workday is from 9 to 5 or 5:30 every day. In other countries, people often work from 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon and then from 5 to 9 at night. But they always work at the same times every day, for 5 or 6 days a week. These are regular hours. Some people don't work at the same times every day, and they don't work on the same days every week. They work irregular hours. Their lives are very different. Some don't see their families every day. They don't make the same amount of money every week. Here are some examples of both kinds of jobs. Kathy Nilsson.
Kathy lives in Seattle. She works in an office. She begins work at 9 every day. She has lunch from 12:30 to 1:30, and she finishes work at 5. She often goes out with her friends at night.
Richard Megdad.
Richard lives in Detroit. He works in a factory. He always begins work at 8, and he finishes at 4:30. He always works 5 days a week. He never works on Saturdays and Sundays. He's married, and he has 3 children. He sees his family every night.
Carmen Garcia.
Carmen lives in Phoenix. She works in a department store. She always begins work at 1 in the afternoon and works until 5:30. Then she has dinner. She begins work again at 6:30 and works until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. She never works on Sundays and Mondays.
Paul Benoit.
Paul works on an oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico. He works for 10 to 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 2 weeks. For those 2 weeks, he lives on the oil rig. Then he goes home for 10 days. Paul lives in New Orleans.
Teresa Healy.
Teresa is a flight attendant. She lives in Dallas and works for International Airlines. She doesn't go home every night. Sometimes she stays in hotels in European cities. She works for 4 or 5 days. Then she has 3 or 4 days off.
Marshall Haynes.
Marshall is a famous writer. He lives in New York and writes detective stories. He writes 2 books a year. He goes to a hotel and works 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 3 weeks. He doesn't see anybody. He finishes a book in 3 weeks. Then he doesn't write for 6 months.